Now we're going to be crossing Spear Street on Market Street. As you can see, it begins at 000, as I was telling you before. Now, the other thing is, if you look at where the arrow is pointing, that lets you know the significance of how long the streets are in terms of the numbered block, where the streets are headed in terms of its number. So, since it's pointing left, it's essentially going south of Market. So the next is going to go up to 099, and then the next block is going to begin at 100, going to go to 100 to 199, as I mentioned before. And this is how you're able to distinguish how the streets are aligned. I'm going to emphasize this quite a bit so that you're able to ensure that you'll be able to find establishments, whether it be businesses or attractions. So you see now, as we cross Market Street from Spear Street, now the number begins at 100 on Market, and you can see with the arrow is pointing westbound. So the number is going to go from, the next block is going to be from 100 to 199. Now the Hyatt Regency is located at 5 Embarcadero Center, but it crosses Market Street as well as California. What's special about the Hyatt Regency is got great views, rooms with great views of the San Francisco Bay, 17-story atrium with the restaurant. And then they used to have this restaurant, they don't have it anymore, but they used to have this restaurant called the Equinox. And it was like a revolving indoor dining experience where literally the entire floor would revolve throughout the whole dining experience. So you wouldn't be able to see the Golden Gate Bridge, but you will be able to see a significant portion of the city. It's set at the highest peak of the hotel. And it was quite spectacular, but they said they don't have that Equinox restaurant anymore. Nor do they have that revolving dining experience. Here's one of the entrances to the BART train system. So the BART Bay Area Rapid Transit System, which is a very, very nice service that involves a rapid train system that literally takes you from different parts of the city to the East Bay, east of San Francisco, as well as some cities east of San Francisco, many of them, that goes all the way out to Pittsburgh, Bay Point, literally, as well as south of San Francisco up to the San Francisco airport. And the train system route structure has also included stations that are in San Jose, but not up to the San Jose airport. Anyway, I'll try to show you a train system map so you get a better idea of the level of service that BART provides. Trains runs very frequently as well. They don't run 24 hours, but they nevertheless do provide very convenient service. And here, this station, the train system runs underground throughout San Francisco, but in some portions of the train service, it runs above ground. Now, there essentially are 4 train systems that are up to Civic Center near Market Street before it moves away from Market Street towards, I think, the Mission District. But you would have to take, the train said they're underground, so you would have to go underground to take the train. I forgot to add that this side of the train station is currently closed due to COVID-19, but there's another entrance right across the street on Market Street where it is open. Also, it's located at pretty much at the corner of Market Street and Drum Street, which is the next block going westbound on Market Street. Essentially, you could say, 153 Market Street. So now we're going to be entering the 200 block of Market Street, and as you can see, the arrow is pointing left, going westbound. And we're going to be crossing Drum Street, which is north of Market, and then Main Street south of Market. Before we continue on 200 Market Street, I forgot to mention one other thing, and that is just literally right outside the door of the Hyatt Regency is the beginning of the California Street cable car line. And those of you familiar with the cable car line, primarily there's two routes. One that comes from Union Square over to Fisherman's Wharf and vice versa. And then there's the California Street cable line, which begins right here off of Market Street in California, and it goes west-east, westbound all the way up to Van Ness Street, then turns around and comes back from Van Ness back here to Market Street in California. Now, if you notice, it can get very hilly as you progress 4 blocks down California Street. Then you'll be approaching Nob Hill. But the other thing that's significant about its location point here at California and Market is that California Street runs at a diagonal angle. It crosses Market Street at a diagonal angle, which gets into the significance of how the streets are aligned off of Market Street. I know this may sound a little confusing, but the key point here is to bring a greater awareness as to how the streets are aligned off of Market Street. The streets I'm going to show you as we're going down westbound on Market Street, some of them cross directly off Market Street, and the others cross diagonally at an angle like this California Street does. And so let's go ahead and proceed on Market Street. You also have the option of taking the public transit system throughout the city, especially if you have one of those all-day Muni bus passes, or the Clipper card. I'll get into the Clipper card a little later on, but here's one of the stops along Market Street from which several buses will stop. Now, all of them that move along Market Street will stop at every stop, but here's a list of some of the buses that will stop at this particular stop, and that's the F Street car. And the F Street car is currently not running, but it runs with a cable on top. And it's one of the cars that you want to take coming from downtown if you're staying at any one of the downtown hotels going out to Fisherman's Wharf. Now it stops here, but also you have the 2 Clement Street bus line. You've got the 6 Parnassus, 21 Hayes, 31 Balboa, and the 9 San Bruno. And then you have the late night hour buses that run, I think, between 1 a.m. and 5 a.m., the L and the N Owl Street. Now, Drum Street crosses Market Street, and it's going to run north of Market, beginning here. Market, see the 000, and the arrow is pointing left, running north. And I'm going to show you Main Street that's going to be crossing Market going southbound. So as we cross the 200 block of Market Street, going south of Market, you'll see Main Street. And as you can see here, the arrows are pointing southbound to your right, beginning at 000.